Hi guys, and welcome to part 76 of Skyrim Mod Sanctuary. Now the mod I'm going to cover in this video is called Stable uGridsToLoad, and the reason I'm covering this mod is, well, there are two reasons. The first reason is a lot of people have asked me to do so. They've asked my opinion on it, and the second reason is when I went along to the mod page to have a look at it, I did notice some people were pretty confused as to what it does, and I sort of understand why. The description is pretty damned non-existent. No, I don't want to attack the mod author, but marketing is definitely not his strong point. However, the mod is very interesting indeed, and maybe something you guys might want to check out. Okay, so what does the mod actually do? Well, before I tell you what the mod does, let's talk about one of the problems Skyrim has. Skyrim can be a beautiful game, but as you're running along, you constantly see trees pop into existence, textures on the roof get a little bit better, and things just keep magically appearing. Look at the centre of the screen now, that area there. There are supposed to be rocks on that hill. You can't see any, it just looks like a grassy, dirty hill. But watch as I get closer. All of a sudden, the rocks magically spring into existence. And obviously, this can be a little immersion breaking. It is a little unpleasant to look at. And you can actually alleviate this problem by changing some settings in your Skyrim.ini file. I will show you how to do that at the end of the video, but you can do this. However, there are a couple of problems. The first problem is a minor one, and that is it can make your game a little less stable. Now I call that a minor problem because, let's face it, everything we do can cause stability problems. Every mod you install adds that little extra strain on your system, so increasing the distance that you see objects, obviously it does put more stress on the system, your performance will almost certainly go down, and yes, you do run the risk of getting crashes to desktop. But the second problem is far worse, and the problem is your save games. When you change the value in the ini file to increase the distance you can see objects in detail, it gets kind of remembered in your saved games. Basically, your saved games have saved all the data that was loaded at the time, and if you change your mind at a later date and reduce that distance, if you decide it is unstable and you want to go back to the original or to a lower value, you will not be able to load any saves you made with the higher value. That is not actually completely true. There are ways of fixing it, but it's not always reliable, and you do run the risk of losing your save. And that is where this mod comes in. It allows you to try higher values on your uGridsToLoad so that you see objects further away and still be able to load your saves if you change your mind later. Now this mod also allows us to check out different values of uGridsToLoad from the console, so you can actually try it out in game and see how it looks and then test it to see if it is stable enough for you to use. And you just go along to the console and you type set ini, all one word, space, double quotes, uGridsToLoad. I believe it's case insensitive. In fact, I know it's case insensitive. So uGridsToLoad : general and double quotes end. Then space, and for example 7. I'm going to type 7. I then press enter, and you will see on screen a lot of areas that have suddenly gone white, grey, black, and obviously not looking very good. If I then close the console, if you don't know how to open the console, it's usually the key next to your 1 key, by the way. Close the console, and it will then load in a lot of things. You'll notice it's not actually loaded everything. To get it to do that, I have to open the map and then close it again. And there you go. I'm now loading 7 grids. so those objects can be seen much further away. You should note that this does not remove the problem. Things still pop into existence as you get close to them. It just happens further away so that it is a little less noticeable. Now, of course, I could push the value to 9 and then it would load them in even further away. And 11 makes it, to be honest with you, almost as far as I can see clearly. However, for me, 9 is unstable pretty much immediately, and 11 I can't even load. So you are going to have to test different values yourself. You might be able to use 9 without any problems. Some people have reported going as high as 11, which is incredible. If you do change the uGridsToLoad this way, it lasts as long as your particular gaming session, as long as you've got the game open. So you could load other saves now and they would also have uGridsToLoad 7, and that will last until you quit the game. And once again, I cannot stress enough that this will work for some people, not for others. Some will be able to push it to 7, some will be able to push it to 9, some to 11, and so on. Some will not be able to push it beyond the default 5 without getting massive instability. I imagine that using such techniques as texture optimizations, perhaps EN boost, or just reducing your mod load could make it a little easier to push these values, but again, that is a choice you are going to have to make. And before I move on to showing you how to install the mod and set up the ini file so these changes are permanent, I would just like to point out a couple of other things. There are actually quite a few ways of making distant terrain look better, but I have used none of them for this video. I have deliberately left it as ugly as possible so that you can see the stark difference. However, there are some other mods that will help you make the game look better. They will probably still leave the popping effect when objects come into full detail, but they can make it a little less noticeable. And of course, you can always use a mod such as Dynavision and put static depth of field on to make the distant objects look a little blurred. Believe it or not, that does actually help make them look better if they are low quality. Before I actually show you the installation, I am going to show you what happens if you do not have this mod installed and you change the uGridsToLoad. Now, I currently, right now, have uGridsToLoad set at the default. The default is 5. Now if I load this save game was saved with uGridsToLoad at 5. And it will load without any trouble whatsoever. Pretty much back at that scene, but on a nice rainy day. You can see no distant terrain, or the distant terrain is not good. Now I am going to load, it's basically the same spot, only I saved it with uGridsToLoad 7. And it crashes. And that is the problem you have without this mod. So if you change your mind, go back to the default uGridsToLoad, it won't be able to load that save. However, let's see what happens now when I install stable uGridsToLoad. As I mentioned, the description is not exactly detailed. Go along to the file section, download with manager so it downloads into your Nexus mod manager. Now you should note that it requires SKSE. This is an SKSE plugin. That is actually stated on the sparse description page. Once the mod has downloaded, just activate it. It really is that simple. Now watch what happens when I load the same game. See, I haven't changed my uGridsToLoad yet. I have not changed my uGridsToLoad. My uGridsToLoad is 5. But I'm going to load the saved game where it was 7. The one that crashed. That was the one that worked. This was the one that crashed. And it should now load without any problem. Now, it was saved with 7, however, as soon as it loads, you will see the rocks are missing. It's only loaded up to 5, which is exactly what I wanted, actually. So, there you go. Stable. Okay, So let's assume that you've tried the mod out, you've tried the console command, you've pushed it to 7 or 9, you've become convinced your system will run it at a particular value, and now you want to make it permanent. You want it to keep that every time you run the game. It's not that hard. You're going to need to find your Skyrim.ini file. For me, it's under Library, Documents, My Games, Skyrim. Just go along and edit it. I'm going to edit with Notepad++. You can edit with Notepad if you want. I just think this is a great program. And under General, you need to do uGridsToLoad. Again, I don't think the case sensitivity is important. And then do equals, for example, 7. It does need to be under the General section. It doesn't really matter where in there. And then either Control-S or File Save. And that's it. I have now got uGridsToLoad permanently set to 7. Obviously, if you want 11, just do 11. It has to be an odd number, I think. Don't try anything other than 5, 7, 11, maybe 13 and 15. If your system can handle it, I envy you. But there you go. Okay guys, that is about it for this video. I realize it was a little different to my usual videos, but this mod is a little different too. Now you may have noticed that this series has not been coming out weekly as I was hoping it would, and if you've not been following my update videos, it is simply due to time issues. I am reorganizing my life now, and I am getting more and more time to make these videos, and I am hoping within the next month to get this series back on track as a once a week event. Of course, I'm going to be continuing my beginner's guide to modding Skyrim. That is a finite series, and there are a few more episodes left. Hopefully I will get that done this month as well. I am actually going to start playing Skyrim again very soon, so of course I will be trying out a lot of new mods. And of course I am ending this video with some screenshots that you guys have been posting. Thank you very much for your continuing support, and if you do have screenshots you would like me to include in these videos, please upload them to my Nexus page. I will put a link down below. As I said, hopefully the next video will be reasonably soon, and you guys are more than welcome to join me for that. And until then, as always, have fun.